Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a beer from Mikkeller. This was one that was created in their stateside operation in San Diego, California. And this is part of a series of Game of Thrones themed beers that they did. The specific beer is Game of Thrones Castle Black Stout. It is an Imperial Stout clocking in at 13.6% ABV. This one was brewed with vanilla and it was bourbon barrel aged. So, nice silver wax dipped cap there, very dark kind of color, and on the label art, kind of looks like they're typical Mikkeller cartoon characters, but kind of themed like men of the Night's Watch guarding the wall there. Very, very cool. Maybe, you know, some people would consider this a gimmick, but I enjoyed the show. And look, good beer's good beer, doesn't matter how it's themed. So whatever your thoughts or preferences are, I'm expecting this to be good. It's a stout from Mikkeller. So as always, we got our trusty pointy end of our bottle opener. We're gonna score underneath the edge of the cap directly into this wax, which will give us a nice place, hopefully without too much difficulty, to find a spot for leverage. Yep, got it on the first try. Do just a touch of cleanup on the edge, just so no wax residual will drop in the glass as I pour. Got our trusty stout glass today. Get this poured right in. Oh yeah, that's thick. That's dark. Wow. So I'm gonna try to be a bit aggressive there down the middle. Now we're gonna back it off. Yeah, there it goes. Very, very thick. It is making a head, but it's taking its time. Very, very thick beer. Big, big aroma coming off of this already. The vanilla and the bourbon are massive. I'm a good foot and a half away from that beer. So let's hold this up. Visually, yeah, absolutely pitch black, as you would expect on a 13.6% stout. Yeah, tiny, tiny, tight, super fine, tiny carbonation. I can see just clinging, slowly working its way up the side of the glass. This formed a very lush, thick head. This is impressive. It easily looks like it could have been pulled from a tap. That formed a beautiful head. So it's going to be quite thick. Let's get up over this for a full sniff. Oh, wow, yeah. So, okay, this is a promising aroma. Visually, and the head already out of the park. Aroma already out of the park. Getting right up on it for a full sniff, though, I can tell you, the bourbon, the vanilla, and their underlying malt bill are all coming through absolutely clearly. The bourbon's very pronounced, as you would expect in a bourbon barrel-aged beer. The vanilla, it's typically a more pungent ingredient. It's got a nice aroma that also really pairs well with bourbon barrel aging. And then the underlying malt bill really comes through clearly as well. This one smells quite roasty. Indeed, it's pitch black. It's 13.6%. And a stout with deeply roasted malts like that, they would have to have put quite a few of them in there to get the ABV up. So I'm expecting this to be a very big, bold, in-your-face beer. Visually, it looks great. It smells fantastic, so we're probably going to make a mess in the beard, but let's just jump right in and see what this is all about. Oh man. Oh, this is just massive and unbelievably delicious. Wow. Wow. What a stout. What a stout. This is just, the intensity will absolutely blow your mind. I mean, I drink a lot of big stouts. I drink a lot of barrel-aged big stouts. The intensity coming off of this one, if I thought the aroma was incredibly intense, this flavor profile is just punch you in the face with intensity in the best way possible for a big stout lover. Good grief. The level of intensity from everything that went into this beer is just, they turned the dial up to 11. I mean, that's the only way I can describe this. So the first thing I got immediately upon swallowing was that nice rush of that bourbon back, and it was paired evenly with that vanilla. But already within about the first second or two, coming rushing and flooding in behind, kind of just to give the entire beer its push to the top of the pedestal, is just this incredible rush of flavors coming out of that malt bill. And it is bold, it's intense. It is deeply roasted, deeply roasted malts here, and they are huge and in your face. There's a lot of earthiness to it. There's a good bit of char to it, and there's a healthy bit of earthy and kind of char to bitters coming out of this. Tons of coffee-like notes coming off of this one. Tons of dark baker's chocolate, as well as almost some milk chocolate-like elements. I think that's mostly coming from the way that the malt bill flavor characteristics are pairing with that beautiful bourbon and vanilla. It kind of lightens it up a little bit to take it out of those charred, rich depths and kind of elevate it a bit. So there's tons of layers of flavoring, but I can't overstate just how incredibly intense the flavor profile of this is. That really took me by surprise, and pleasantly so. I have had barley wines and imperial stouts with many magnitudes higher ABVs than this, and the intensity on this is next level. I mean, I have really not had that many beers ever with the sheer volume of flavor intensity coming off of this, and it is just shocking in the best possible way. This is a big beer lover's beer. Unbelievable. I knew this was going to be good. I mean, I hoped it would. I had my suspicions, but man, I did not expect that. That is unbelievable. Okay, so enough of gushing. My initial thoughts, absolutely out of this world. So a lot to process. Aside from the sheer intensity, there were tons of layers of complexity, a lot happening in this. Tried to talk about as many as I could as I was experiencing them, but of course, we will jump back in here for a second sip. We're gonna pick apart this body and this mouthfeel, talk about the overall balance a bit more in detail, and we'll talk about this finish. So, take two. Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay, so the body and mouthfeel on this beer is pretty well what you would expect. The body is, to me, medium heavy on the border of heavy, but it's not quite as weighty as I would expect. Didn't miss it by much, but it's maybe not quite as oppressively heavy as you would expect for a beer that pours that thick, that's 13.6%. The mouthfeel, on the other hand, is everything I expected it to be. It's extremely resistant. This is one that viscous is a really appropriate term. It's almost syrupy in the way that it feels. It's very thick, and it's also extremely lush and creamy on the palate. Very silky, very velvety. So it's really got this big multi-layered complexity to the mouthfeel that is just perfection. Which really does help, since the body's not quite as weighty as I expected. Having a mouthfeel that lush helps to kind of counterbalance that, but it's absolutely fantastic. Second sip, just a big re-intensification of flavor. I mean, this is a big flavorful beer. It's bold. Just as I said, it was equal parts with the aroma, the bourbon, the malts, the vanilla. I gotta say the same is true in the flavor profile, but there's even more layers of complexity. So really all it does is just open up into more layers, but the balance is just impeccable. It's as impressive as the intensity of the flavor profile and the aroma in general. This is just a big, extremely well executed beer. Man, okay, so big bolts, big pushes of char and earthy bitters coming from underneath, mixing with this beautiful bourbon barrel. I don't know what bourbon they used nor for how long, but whatever they picked, bravo. And the vanilla, again, and the balance of all of it is just top notch. They absolutely nailed it on this for my money. And then when we get to kind of the final things to consider here, the finish. Yeah, this is a big, high ABV, barrel-aged stout that is just impressively in your face. And as you might expect, that does indeed have a major impact on the finish, and it's extremely long. I mean, I could probably sit here talking about that last sip another 5 minutes and still have it lingering noticeably on my palate. What you're left with on the back of the palate on this one, there is still just a little bit of that bourbon quality that floats around for at least a couple minutes. But even after a couple minutes here, really the big dominant factor on here is just the overall intensity of that roasty, big, massive malt bill. And I'm still getting earthiness, I'm still getting char, still getting a little bit of bitters, and I'm still getting bits of chocolate and bits of milk chocolate. I mean, this is big, guys. This is a big beer with a ton of mileage in each sip, and it's bold, and it's in your face, and it's been a while since I've been this impressed by a stout. I drink a lot of them, and I typically do enjoy what I get. We live in a wonderful time. Most craft brewers put out very good, high-quality beer. This is one of those kind of set it aside in this cluster of others. It is that big, it is that bold, it is that impressive, and it is that well done. Guys, this is a fantastic beer. I'm going to take my time sip on every last drop of this one. When we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Mikkeller's Game of Thrones kind of themed beer, part of that series. They got different beers of various styles. This specific one was their Castle Black Stout, an Imperial Stout clocking in at 13.6% ABV. This one was bourbon barrel aged and had added vanilla. And this was brewed at one of their stateside brewing ops in San Diego, California. So this beer, obviously, I really was impressed by it, and maybe you would be shocked by this, but it did not get a perfect score. You know, I have to rate beers how I experience them. I only have one subjective category, and in one of the objective ones, it wasn't quite perfection. So just one category, we're going to jump straight to it. That was the body. If you saw my thoughts and kind of walked through, you probably already saw this coming. But yeah, the body was nice. It was certainly above average in terms of weight, in terms of overall intensity, but given the nature of this ABV range, it really wasn't quite as heavy as I expected. The mouthfeel was really kind of the game changer for those two categories that are so often intrinsically linked. But the mouthfeel really had a lot more resistance and substance to it, which kind of helped bypass some of the lack of relative weight and robustness of the body. So yeah, it was a weighty beer. It is high ABV, and it was certainly above average, but it was maybe off the mark by a bit from what I expected, given a 13.6% ABV. So the body did get a 7 out of 10, and that leaves a perfect 10 out of 10 in all 9 remaining categories, which is aroma, taste, mouthfeel, finish, head and retention, appearance, balance, feeling/intangible, my subjective thoughts category, and example of style, which does bring the total score on Mikkeller's Game of Thrones Castle Black Stout to a 97 out of 100. So, okay, look, it got 3 points off of a perfect in body. In the grand scheme, I gotta say it. So what? Who cares? This was an absolutely impressive beer right out of the gate. I didn't know what to expect when I jumped in. It was a stout from Mikkeller, high ABV, barrel aged. I expected good things. Nothing could have prepared me for how truly spectacular this beer was. And as soon as I got on the aroma, and I could smell it from 1.5 feet away, and I could smell the bourbon coming off, then I got right up on it, and I was like, oh, it's not just bourbon. The vanilla is also clearly there, as is the underlying roasty malt bill. I had a suspicion I was in for a treat when I finally sipped, and wow. This was easily one of the most in-your-face, bold, intense beers I have ever had, and I have literally had thousands upon thousands of different beers, and this, absolutely top tier. Absolutely top tier. If you like big, bold, in-your-face beers of any kind, you've got to try this one because it's absolutely going to blow you away. If you're a big stout fan or a barrel-aged beer fan, wow, this is one. I don't know how readily you can pick it up. I did get this from Tavour, but if you can find this somewhere in your local bottle shop, in Total Wine, Tavour brings it back, do yourself the favor, grab this. This is one of those, I can't believe what I just experienced beers. You've got to try it. Absolutely, this is a must buy. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications, hit the bell icon, It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.